We're all set up, so let's fly the approach. Since we're on partial panel, my scan will have to center around the turn coordinator, with glances in turn to the magnetic compass, the altimeter, the vertical speed indicator, the airspeed indicator, and the GPS, plus anything else I need to look at to control and navigate the airplane without the attitude indicator and the heading indicator.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra, maintain 4,000 until Nick. Cleared for the Brawley GPS Alpha approach.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra, maintain 4,000 until Nick. Cleared for the Brawley GPS Alpha approach. I'll use this opportunity to slow down now to 90 knots, the speed I want to use for the approach. And I'll put down 10 degrees of flaps until my landing is assured. The waypoint annunciator is flashing, so I'm getting close to Nick. And now the annunciator is steady, so I'll start my turn to my new course. I want a course of 078. That's 18 degrees to the right, so I'll count a 6-second standard rate turn to the right. And roll out. And I'll use the GPS to fine-tune my heading. The GPS has sequenced automatically to Imperial, so I'll reset my OBS to 078. And I need to start a descent to 3,000 feet. So I'll pitch down and reduce power to about 1,400 RPM to maintain 90 knots during my descent. I'll use the vertical speed indicator and the altimeter to monitor a descent rate of about 500 feet per minute. While I'm descending, I'll continue to use the turn coordinator and the GPS track information as necessary to make small corrections to keep on track. Of course, if I didn't have a GPS, I'd be looking at the magnetic compass instead. There's 3,000 feet, so I'll add power and pitch up a little to level off. Then I'll check for the results on the vertical speed indicator and the altimeter. And I'll make sure my airspeed is still 90 knots. While I'm waiting to get to Imperial, I can help myself out by figuring out in advance how many degrees I'll need to turn to the left when I get to Imperial. Now here's a neat trick. I can use my ADF dial to make it easy to figure that out. First, I'll rotate the indicator card to put my current heading 078 at the top. Then, since I'm going to turn at the rate of 3 degrees per second, which is 30 degrees every 10 seconds, all I need to do is count the number of 30-degree segments between my current heading 078 and my new heading 345. Let's see, there's 2 segments plus some change on either end. That'll be 10 seconds for each segment, so 20 seconds there, plus 10 seconds total for the change on either end. But I'll probably need an intercept angle, say 30 degrees or 10 more seconds. So I'll turn left for 40 seconds when I get to Imperial. I can fine-tune things after I'm headed in the right direction. The waypoint annunciator has gone from flashing to steady, and the desired track is flashing 345. So I'll start that 40-second turn now. Okay, there's my 40 seconds, so I'll roll out now, and I'll reset my external OBS to 345. The GPS has sequenced to my step-down fix, CFJTB. My OBS needle is centered now, so I'll turn back to the right for a ground track of 345. That'll be a 10-second standard rate turn. Okay, I've got a ground track now of 345. So I'll reduce power and pitch down and use my vertical speed indicator and altimeter to control my descent down to 2,000 feet. I've got plenty of time to get down, so I'll use my normal descent rate of 500 feet per minute. And again, I'll maintain 90 knots. My OBS needle is deflected to the left, and my ground track is 5 degrees to the right of my desired track, so I'll make a correcting turn to the left. The easiest way to do that is to make my correcting turns at 1/3 standard rate. That way, each degree of turn will take 1 second, and that really makes the math easy. In this case, I need to correct my heading error, plus set up an intercept back to course. I want about an 8-degree correction to the left, so I'll count an 8-second, 1/3 standard rate turn to the left and see how that works out. My OBS needle is centered again now, so I'll turn back to the right to hold my course. I want to turn about 3 degrees to the right, so I'll count a 3-second, 1/3 standard rate turn to the right. The GPS shows that my actual track is now the same as my desired track, and my OBS needle is centered, so I know I'm on course, and I should stay on course. Here's 2,000 feet coming up, so I'll add power and pitch up to level off, and I'll still maintain 90 knots. The GPS is flashing to announce waypoint passage at my step-down FEX, CFJTB, and it's automatically sequenced to MP. So I'll start my descent to 1,300 feet. I've got 5 miles to go to the final approach fix, and I only need to lose 700 feet. So I'll still use my normal descent rate of 500 feet per minute. I'm within 2 miles now of the final approach fix, MP. The annunciator says ACTV, meaning the approach is now active, and the CDI sensitivity has changed to plus or minus 0.3 nautical mile. When I get to MP, I'll use my mnemonic, time, turn, throttle, tune, and talk, to remind me of all I want to do.
Cessna 359er Echo Sierra. No weather available at Brawley. Change to advisory frequency approved. Report canceling IFR this frequency. If unable, report cancellation of flight service after landing.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra. There's 1,300 feet, so I'll level off. Add a little bit of power and pitch up a little. And there's MP. I won't be timing the approach, and I don't need to turn. I'll throttle back to about 1,300 RPM and use an 800 feet a minute rate of descent to make sure I get down in time to see the airport. I don't have to worry about tuning. The GPS is automatically sequenced to the missed approach point labeled MAJTA. So all that's left to do is talk. I'll announce my intentions on the Common Traffic Advisory frequency. Since the wind is slightly from the west up here, I'll plan on turning right and circling to land on runway 26. That will put me on a left downwind for runway 26 and let me keep the runway in sight as I circle. Brawley traffic, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, 4 miles south. We'll be entering left downwind for runway 26 at Brawley. And I'll also turn on the lights. Now here are my 3 priorities. First, keep track of my altitude and make sure I descend no lower than 500 feet until I have the runway environment in sight and I'm in a position to make a normal landing. Second, make sure I start my missed approach if I can't see the runway at the missed approach point. And third, as always, keep making very small corrections sooner instead of big corrections later. On this heading, so close to north, the magnetic compass errors make knowing my heading accurately especially difficult. I have to make sure I have the wings perfectly level before I check my compass. And not only do I need to keep scanning my flight instruments, I also need to include the GPS and its annunciators in my scan. Okay, I'm 500 feet above minimum descent altitude. I'll include the altimeter in my scan even more often. I'm 800 feet going for 500 feet. I'm 700 feet going for 500 feet. Time to start slowing my descent rate. I'm 600 feet going for 500 feet. I'll start leveling off now. There's MDA 500 feet MSL. I'll hold that altitude until I reach the missed approach point or until I can see the runway environment. Say, there's the runway, and I'm in good VFR conditions, so I'll cancel my IFR clearance with center. LA Center, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra is VFR canceling IFR.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra, IFR cancellation received. Squawk VFR, frequency change approved.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra. Brawley traffic, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, left downwind, runway 26 at Brawley. Brawley traffic, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, turning left base, runway 26, Brawley. Brawley traffic, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra is turning final, runway 26, Brawley. Brawley traffic, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, down and clear, runway 26 at Brawley. Well, there you have it. Partial panel approaches can be done safely. They just require that you be sharp on instruments and use all your resources. Partial panel approaches do increase your workload, but if you're proficient and remember to keep your scan moving, you'll do just fine. And having this skill will give you the confidence that you're still a safe IFR pilot, even when the chips are down.